Hi there. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Melissa. I'm a marketing specialist here in Encore. And today we've got George Braun with us from True Sky to talk about advanced budgeting for Business Central. So, hi there, George. I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining this afternoon. What I'd like to do is just go, give you guys a high-level overview of our product and kind of what we do. I think everybody's going to be on mute, so if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box, and I'll try and answer them at the end of the session. So with that, I'll just start out with a couple of slides, and then we'll get into the actual demo of the product. Okay. So the first thing is, why do we need an application? Most people out there are using Excel for budgeting. And although Excel is a great tool, it's very flexible. You can model any process. You can, do all kinds of calculations. It's got a great presentation layer, and it's got really high user adoption. It's not ideal for budgeting. Main things are, it's not a database. There's a lot of manual steps. There's no workflow. There's no audit trails. There's no version controls. And at the end of the day, Excel can be very error prone. Here's some interesting stats. 90% of all spreadsheets out there have errors. Some of them can be very significant. Sometimes they actually get reported. Like here's some examples of some of them that have been reported. So, that's kind of in a one spreadsheet. Once you start doing a budgeting process where you've got multiple people involved in the budgeting process and you've got multiple spreadsheets and you have to merge them, this can go up exponentially. So a lot of people are spending a lot of time just troubleshooting their spreadsheets and trying to figure out, okay, where's the errors, and these numbers don't make any sense. So with that, we decided to build True Sky, and the reason we did it was to help clients focus on the high value items of budgeting, as opposed to what we call the drudgery of budget preparation. Budgeting has a lot of admin tasks and a lot of admin work, and we try to reduce a lot of that as we build our product, just to really help you focus on the value of your budget, how to help you run your business better. So with that, we had 3 user types looked at. The first ones are the contributors, and these are the people that enter budgets. And for them, we wanted to make sure we make it as easy as possible for them to get in and out of the system. Most people don't love budgeting, so the easier you make it, the better. For the finance group, we wanted to make sure they can minimize administration, minimize the amount of work they have to do, and increase the quality of the budget. And ultimately, for the decision makers, we want to provide them with meaningful information, reduce risk, and help them avoid surprises. Really give them information to help them run the business more efficiently. So when we built the product, we had 3 main pillars in mind. The first one was we wanted to leverage Excel. Since everyone's using Excel, we wanted to take advantage of that. The ability to have like rapid user adoption. If you're currently budgeting in Excel, then wanted to keep the process as similar as possible. Then there will be minimal training. Excel has a lot of functionality that we wanted to take advantage of. It's easy to use, it's flexible. And then we added a whole bunch of enhancements to make Excel better for budgeting. The other pillar was we wanted to make sure that the finance group can actually control the whole system and empower the finance group to manage the whole application. And with that, we wanted to make sure that everything was centralized. All of the data is central, so there's no spreadsheets floating around. They don't have to manage spreadsheets. Basically, they run their application within Excel, and then everything's centralized, everything's controlled. Wanted to make sure they had audit trails, that they could manage all the security and controls. Wanted to make sure that you have an automatic real-time merge, so there's no merging of spreadsheets. As soon as people enter data, everything's automatically updated. Wanted to have integration to Business Central, to your ERP, or to any other type of data source that you may have out there that you may be budgeting on, whether it's HR, some CRM or some other applications. Wanted to make sure that we have direct integration, so you only have to enter data once. Ultimately, wanted to make sure that they start promoting accountability. And then we also have a process called Build Once Design, which basically allows us to create one template and roll it out to multiple people. And depending on the security, the templates will render themselves dynamically. So we can, create one template and roll it out to 10 different departments, and every department will only see their numbers or things that relate to them. And ultimately, we wanted to facilitate knowledge. And by that, we wanted to make sure that we can, easily involve more people in the budgeting process. The closer you are to the action, the better the numbers and the more meaningful they are, as well as people are inputting their own budgets, we can make them accountable for it. Want to make sure we capture not just the numbers, but the reason behind the numbers, and also allow people to drill down and do deep dive analysis on the data. Obviously wanted to increase accuracy, and ultimately wanted to provide, better decision level information so management can make better decisions. So what can TrueSky do? TrueSky can do pretty well anything around budgeting, planning, and forecasting, whether it's financial and operational, compensation, sales or revenue forecasting, expense management, CapEx. We can do stuff around projects, production and inventory, or basically do any kind of structured data capture that you would need. As well, we're also a reporting and dashboarding engine. So we can create consolidated budgets. We can do presentation quality financial statements, income statements, balance sheets, cash flows. We can do all the budget to actual variance analysis, FTE and headcount reporting, as well as dashboards and KPIs. Okay, so that's just a quick overview on TrueSky. So what I'd like to do is just kind of pop over and go to the actual demo of the software. So I'm just going to flip over to Excel, and hopefully you can see Excel. If you can't, just let me know. But otherwise, right now I'm sitting in an Excel spreadsheet. And what would happen in real life is a user will go into Excel, and then we'll go to a tab called TrueSky. As I mentioned, we only use Excel as a user experience. Once they go into the TrueSky tab, we start taking over. So they will go into what we call our hub. And the hub is really the central place where we start to spoon feed the users and telling them, these are the tasks, or these are the, the assignments that we have for you. So for myself, I've got a whole bunch of different assignments. I've got some reports, and templates is for an administrator. So most users will either see assignments or reports, or a combination of these two. So if I look at my assignments, I've got some admin tasks. So I've got to do my capital expenditures. I've got to do my departmental allocations. I've got some annual budget things I need to do. I've got some cash flow. I've got some compensation planning, some project budgeting, and whatever. Okay. So I'm going to go over here, go to my annual budget cycle, and go to my office expenses. I'm going to just enter my office expenses. As you can see, we start to take control of everything. We say, when does this budgeting start? When does it end? Over here, I've got multiple levels. So we've got a very sophisticated workflow engine that we run in the background for routing templates to different people. So depending on who you are, we can say, okay, send this template to the manager for approval, or send parts of the budget to some other people and have it all merged back, so we can control very detailed, on what gets routed and so forth. As soon as I open up my assignment, the first thing we do is provide instructions. So our first tab is, how do we enter data? Most people only budget yearly, so we always give them instructions, and this is how we expect you to enter data into this particular template. So in this scenario, we're going to be entering information in the yellow shaded cells, and we don't want to have any increases greater than 20% over last year. Save as often as you like and whatever. So you can put in whatever parameters you want, whatever rules you need, and so forth. So I'm just going to go over to my actual template. And here's my template. So the first thing we have is, our filters or drivers or dimensions, whatever you want to call this. But these are the things that we're going to be budgeting on. In this scenario, I'm going to be budgeting on locations, departments, and currencies. So I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I want to budget on, certain departments, so I can click on it. And this will give me a listing of all the departments that I have access to. Now, if I only had access to one department, that's all that would show up. So again, everything in our system is dynamic and depending on security. If I look at my locations, we've got a different view. Here we've got a hierarchical view or a tree view where we can start selecting, what we want to roll up and what we want to show as part of our budget. So, over here I can say take my BC locations. I can say take BC, roll that up with Nova Scotia and Ontario, and that'll roll up the 3 provinces for me. Or if we want, we can display them side by side. So if you've got multiple locations, different departments, different product lines, then you can define what components you want to show where, or if you want them all consolidated and rolled up. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to retrieve my assignment. Filters are very specific to the template. So depending on the kind of template that you're working with, the filters are going to change. If you're doing like compensation, then it'll be employees and departments, or locations, or companies, or whatever you want to define. So right now this has gone out there and created my template for me. And basically what it's done is created an input sheet, which is basically all the yellow shaded stuff as we mentioned. Over here we've brought in our actuals, and these actuals are coming from your business central system. So we're going in and getting the actuals from your ERP. We've got our variances and so forth. If I start expanding this, I've got the ability to enter 12 periods. We can create as many periods as we like. We can do this weekly. We can create 13 periods. If you want, we can do this on a daily basis. If we keep coming across, we've got our actuals. And over here, I've got my actuals for the first 9 months, and I've got my budget for the next 3. So we can also create projected forecasts based on combinations of actuals and budget numbers. And over here, we've got our variances. So pretty straightforward, entry sheet. But really, the reality is for your user, all they're allowed to do is enter information in the yellow shaded cells. Anything that's in blue is locked out. So we're controlling everything. So all they can do is play within this little area here. So if I want to enter some data, I can say, enter some numbers. And I'm in Excel. They've got full Excel functionality. So you got, like the drags and drops, copy and paste. If I want to do a formula, I can just say, take this number plus this number, and give this a formula. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. We've given them the ability to do whatever they want within Excel. All we really care about is what's in this intersection or this number or this cell here. So for example, the intersection for this is my supplies hardware account for my office expense for my 2020 budget for the Seattle office for the corporate department for the month of January. So we basically track everything at this lowest common denominator, and then we can use that data either for reporting, for rolling things up, for calculations, or basically showing this on some other templates. So we've got the ability, once that information is in our database, we can, do whatever we want with that. Some of the things we've done as well, we've added a whole bunch of tools to make budgeting easier. So we've added a whole bunch of data tools. And these data tools allow us to manipulate data. So for example, a lot of times when you do a budget, you'll say, okay, I like certain numbers here, but I may want to increase or decrease some of these. So we've given the users the ability to increase numbers by an even amount, a percentage, or a value. So I'm going to say, take all those fields that I've highlighted and increase them maybe by 20%. And I can just quickly, increase them, or I can just, quickly decrease them. Other things we've done, we've built in a whole bunch of seasonality rules. So if your business has seasonality trends, they can be built into the application and let the user say, I want, this account or these accounts based, spread within a certain seasonality. So rather than taking a number and dividing it by 12, we allow them to just spread it whatever seasonality you choose. Or we can say, let's take last year's numbers and have the same kind of spread as we did last year. So if I look at, that supplies hardware account, last year kind of started a little bit high, went down and up, and so forth. My total last year was $25,000. This year I'm going to budget $30,000 for that account. So I can just put in 30,000. Go ahead and replace, and that'll automatically go through and create my budget for me at $30,000. Okay. You'll also notice as I'm entering data, I've got these visual cues here, and these are really designed to help users stay within our guidelines. So in this scenario here, if you remember in our instructions, we said if our numbers are between 0 and 10%, if our numbers are over 20% of last year, we don't want to allow that. So what we've done in this scenario, we said if our numbers are between 0 and 10% of last year, show us a green. If they're between 10 and 20%, show us a yellow. And if they're over 20%, then show us a red. So when users are entering data, they can quickly see, okay, I am within the guidelines. I am, kind of in the yellow zone. So maybe I should revisit those numbers, or I want to let them go through. We can also tie this into a workflow engine and take it one step further that says, if a template has anything in the red zone, don't even allow it to submit it for approval because it's automatically going to get rejected. Or we can say, let it go through and then let the manager decide whether they want to reject it or not. Okay. We've also added some additional functionality like notes. With TrueSky, we can attach as many notes to this intersection as we would like, and these notes will travel with it. If I want to add a new note, I can just then type in whatever description I want, and as well I can do the attachments. So if you have a business case, some backup spreadsheet or documentation or whatever else like that, you can attach it to the note, and that note will travel with this piece of data all throughout, whether it's on any report, another assignment, or another template. If I look at this one here, I'm buying a piece of hardware. If I click on it, it'll give me a copy of the PO. Okay. I've got my little icon here. I just need to move this out of the way so I can close this. Okay. Other things we've done is we've given the ability to do audit trails. So anytime a record gets changed, we track it, we see who did it, when they did it, what assignment it was on. So as a user, I'm very comfortable that the number I entered is mine. If it got changed for whatever reason, you can go in there, take a look at the audit trail and see who changed it, when they changed it, and you can find out why. Or if I want to go back to my original number, I can just click on that and it'll bring it back. Okay, so the full trail of everything that's ever happened within the system. Some other things we can do as well is we can kind of drill down into our data. So if I want to see what makes up my actuals for last year, I can click on them, and I've got this links feature here. And this links feature allows me to drill down and look at the data that's in Business Central. And I can see, okay, what makes up all the transactions for a certain, GL accounts for a certain time period, or whatever information we want to bring back. As well, we can decide what column we want to bring back. So right now, I brought back, a whole bunch of payable transactions, the vendor name, purchase orders, invoice numbers, and all that kind of information. Once that data is in here, I can start playing around with it. I can say, manipulate it, show these to me from low to high, or from high to low, or show me my top 10 transactions. What's the total of those transactions? So I can see, okay, the total of those transactions is at $25,000. Or I can, kind of look at this in a different way. I can say, group this by maybe GL account name, and maybe bring in my vendor. So now my data is grouped by GL account name, or we can do, account number. If I want to look at a certain account, like I want to look at my supply software account, I can open that up. I can see I've got 5 vendors. I want to take a look at mobile warehouse because something doesn't look right. I can click on that and I can see, okay, there are 2 GL transactions that make up that balance. I can see one of them is an office upgrade, which is okay because it went into the wrong GL account. It went into the right GL account. But I also have a tablet purchase that got posted to the wrong account. It should have gone to the supplies hardware account. So as I'm, either creating a budget, I can drill down into last year's numbers, see what the what makes up the balances in the GL account. Or if I'm doing my budget versus actual analysis, I can drill down and compare my budget versus to my actuals and see what, why am I off? What transactions got put in there? Did things get posted to the wrong account? Did things get posted to the wrong department, or so forth? Okay. We can also use this link feature to tie into other applications. So anything that we can get our hands into, or like anything that we can access the data, we can create a link for and quickly drill down into that. So if you've got some HR systems or some CRM or some other, order entry applications or things like that, and we have access to them, then we can bring that data in and also do a quick query on them. Okay. So that's a little bit on the navigation and look and feel. Just a couple more things I want to show you. We can also do driver-based budgeting, and our drivers are pretty straightforward. As you can see, I've got my yellow information here, and this field here is driving this one. So it's driving my office cleaning supplies account. So if I click on this, it's locked. So the only way I can change these numbers is by changing my driver. And what's in here is a formula. It's a pretty simple Excel formula that says take row 23 by $75. If I go and change this to 500, automatically that'll change. So we can create drivers based on whatever, headcount, square footage, number of units, number of transactions, whatever drivers help run your business. So you can let people just enter drivers as opposed to financial numbers, and the system will automatically manage that. We also have the ability to do rollouts. So certain accounts like employee training, at the corporate level, it's managed kind of the GL level, but a manager typically is making up a list of all the people that are going to be attending the training. So in this case scenario, I've got 2 classes here. If I want to add a 3rd class, I can just put in, training for say True Sky, and I can say, okay, it's going to be $400 the first month and $300 the next month. And automatically, that changes my numbers. Now, anywhere this employee training shows up, all this data will come along with it. So you no longer have to have all this information in, separate spreadsheets or different documents. Everything is contained within this template or that account. Okay. So that gives us a bit of feel and how the system works for as far as data entry. So I'd like to flip over now and show you a little bit about the reporting side of things. So as we mentioned before, we can do all kinds of reports within the application. So any data that's in the system, we can report on. We can produce financial statements, cash flows, balance sheets, and so forth. So here's a very simple income statement, and it's going to be for my Seattle office, for my corporate department in US dollars. Again, we can handle all kinds of multiple currencies and translations and so forth. So in this scenario here, I've got a simple income statement. I've got everything's in Excel, so everything's in an Excel spreadsheet. If I expand it out, right now I've kind of got everything, summarized by levels. Then I've got it broken down by product lines. And if I keep expanding it further, I can go down to the GL level, right? And I can go to as much summary information or as much detailed information as I like. At the top, I can expand this out too. And I've got my actuals. And over here, again, I've got my actuals for the first 9 months and my budget for the next 3 months. So we can create rolling forecasts automatically. And then we've got time intelligence built into the system that we can say, once we close off the months of October, put in the actuals for October and the budgets for November and December. If I keep scrolling across, I've got my budget, I've got my variances, and in this scenario, I've actually got the prior year's numbers as well. Okay, so we can put in, as much information as I want. If I had multiple departments, I could have department 1, department 2, department 3, company 1, company 2, company 3, location 1, location 2, location 3. So depending on how you want to build the reports, you can basically build them any which way you like. At the bottom here, we can also do calculations. And again, these are all Excel formulas to give us ratios and so forth. The drill down, the notes, all that information also works within this. In our application, our reporting engine is the same as our template creation engine. So once you know how to create a template, you can basically create a report. The only difference is that a report is a read-only template. Okay. Other things we can do is we can also do some dashboarding. Our system is open, so if you've got your own BI tools, we can allow you to read some of the TrueSky data, so you can bring in budgets and do reporting on that. But a lot of our clients like to use our tool because we're using Excel and we're using all the objects that Excel offers us. So all the graphs and charts that Excel has, we can take advantage of, and they're all within the same tool. So here's a simple dashboard for all my locations and all my departments. But what we've done is we actually made this one interactive. So we can say, okay, we can do some kind of what if analysis. So what happens if my revenue increases by 40%, and we'll say in the month of May? Because that's going to happen, or anticipate that, I'm going to have an increase in compensation by, say, 20% in the months of March. And I'm also going to have to increase my expenses, let's say, by 10%, also in March. So what is the impact of all this? So you can quickly see, how this is going to impact my revenue. Here's my what if analysis. This is my new revenue forecast. Here's my original budget, and here's my actuals, or my actual forecast. So I can see what the impact is on my revenue, my expenses, my compensation. Ultimately, I can see, okay, what is my net income expense month by month. But again, you can create all of these objects, just using Excel, and take advantage of all the functionality and all the graphs and charts that Excel offers. Okay, so that gives you a pretty high-level overview of our system. We do have a lot of capabilities. We've got a lot of functionality, can handle a lot of different businesses, can handle a lot of complexity around budgeting, but we also try to keep our user interface and our user experience as simple as possible. So then I'm just kind of going to go back to a quick PowerPoint and we'll wrap up. So just to highlight again, what can we do with TrueSky? Pretty well anything around budgeting, planning, and forecasting. Whether it's financial and operational, compensation, sales and revenue forecasting, expense budgeting, capital expenditures, project tracking, or so forth. As well, we are reporting and dashboarding engine. So we can do consolidated budgets, presentation quality financial statements, income statements, balance sheets, cash flows. We can do all the budget to actual variance analysis, headcount reporting, dashboards, and KPIs. So really, at the end of the day, what we've done is we've taken all the strengths of Excel, the ability to model any process, the fact that we have a lot of flexibility, we can do a lot of powerful calculations, great presentation layer, and the fact, there's very high user adoption because everybody knows how to use Excel. And then we added a whole bunch of controls to make it, database driven. We added workflow, approvals, security, audit trails, a whole bunch of productivity tools, integrations into your source systems, whether it's Business Central or any other application you may have. And then we also allow you to create, one template and roll it out to multiple people and have them render dynamically, depending on their security. So ultimately what we did is we turned TrueSky into a full-blown enterprise solution where we have one version of the truth. Everything's centralized and controlled. We can provide you with actionable information, reduce risk, avoid surprises, and ultimately give you a much better tool to help you run your business. Okay. So with that, my mouse here. With that, that concludes the demo. So typically our next steps will be to do a more in-depth demo if you would like to see more information about the product. Then we would do a scope review to define what the scope is, and then we can create a proposal for you. So if there's any questions, this is a good time for the questions. We still have a couple minutes left.
Great. Thank you so much, George. I'm taking an eye at the question pane here. I don't see that anything has come in, but of course we have recorded this and we will be emailing the recording out to everyone who's registered afterwards. You can always reach out to us there if you have any further questions.
Okay.
And I think we can probably give everyone a couple minutes back in our day. Thank you so much, George.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.